The latest Oval Office performance was not diplomacy but travesty, a grotesque tableau choreographed by Donald Trump in ignorance placed South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa before a television screen showing incendiary footage of anti-white slogans, farmer funerals, and a line of wooden crosses, and this symbolism was crude and the message clearer. You, Mr. Ramaphosa, are complicit in genocide. Of course, it's absolute nonsense. There's no white genocide in South Africa, but Trump's insinuation was less about facts and more about feeling, the symbolic manipulation of grievance for political pain, putting his guests at a disadvantage. South Africa does have a rural crime problem. White farmers, along with their black neighbours, face terrifying levels of violence. On average, 50 farmers are murdered each year. That's tragic, but not genocide. Most victims of violent crime in South Africa are black, urban and poor, as Mr. Ramaphosa pointed out. But this doesn't fit Trump's narrative, which recasts white Afrikaners as the last embattled post of Western civilization. The truth is messy. A post-apartheid South Africa dismantled the old commando defence system in rural areas, largely white and militarised, without replacing it with adequate policing. And the result, a power vacuum filled by gangs, private militias and vigilantism. Black and white, a tragedy of state failure, not state conspiracy. The Afrikaners themselves are not a simple bloc. They are descendants of Dutch, German and French settlers, farmers, engineers, artists and teachers. They're a minority with a complex identity, deeply African, yet historically European. They were once apartheid's architects, yet also its first anti-imperialists fighting the British in the Boer War. Today they face real insecurity, economic and physical, but they also retain disproportionate wealth and land, and some are refugees of the state's dysfunction, others are still its beneficiaries. And in the diaspora, Australia, Canada, Britain, the myth of the white farmer under siege plays well. It suits the politics of the right, a morality tale about the fall of civilization, racial injustice reversed, and Trump as saviour. But make no mistake, Trump's concern is not moral but electoral. His Oval Office ambush was a gift to his MAGA base, red meat disguised as racial grievance, and in doing so he trivialises South Africa's complexity and humiliates a visiting head of state. And Ramaphosa, to his credit, didn't bite. His delegation included prominent Afrikaners, golfers, businessmen, a cabinet minister who, through their very presence, complicated Trump's cartoon narrative. And John Steenhuisen, the leader of the Democratic Alliance, pointed out the stakes. Their role in the government of national unity is to keep the rabble, Julius Malema and his incendiary populists, away from power. The moment bristles with ironies. Trump, of all people, invoking the language of human rights, having undermined it so often elsewhere. Ramaphosa, once the darling of Western liberals, now forced to appeal to American investors while defending race-based politics that deter investment. And then there's history. In the 1980s, American companies were urged to defy apartheid by ignoring its race laws. Now, Trump threatens to make them do the same in reverse by challenging South Africa's black economic empowerment policies. If this sounds like a circle turning in on itself, that's because it is. The fight is no longer just about farms or farmers. It's about symbolism, optics and power on both sides of the Atlantic. So, what did we witness in the Oval Office? A grotesque spectacle, yes. A political ambush, certainly, but also perhaps a revealing mirror. Trump held up a distorted image of South Africa, but in doing so, he exposed the racial contradictions still embedded in its post-apartheid settlement. He reminded us that Afrikaners are not relics nor martyrs, but citizens with rights, grievances and responsibilities. And he reminded Ramaphosa that the world is watching, sometimes through a lens cracked by bias, but watching nevertheless. South Africa doesn't need saving from the outside, but it does need better governance, more security, and an end to race as policy. And the Oval Office, if not a site of justice, remains, alas, a global stage. The play is absurd, but the audience is real.